All right, let's journey back, way back. We're heading into the past, to a story that begins under a blazing sun in the dusty lands of ancient Canaan. This is an epic tale, one filled with a promise that seems to be fading, a desperate plan born from a ticking clock, and an incredible discovery about God that will change, well, everything. This entire story really hangs on this one single question. What do you do when you've been waiting and waiting and praying for something God promised, but all you hear is silence? That feeling, that tension, that's the engine that drives this whole chapter. So, I want you to picture the scene. We're in Canaan. The air is so dry it cracks the ground. The sun is just relentless. You can almost hear the buzz of insects in the heat. And for Sarai and Abram, God's promise of a son, a promise of a future, a whole nation, has been hanging in that hot, dry air for 10 long years. Yeah, 10 years. Just let that sink in for a second. A whole decade. Can you imagine waiting that long for the most important thing in your entire life? 10 years is a long time for anything. The hope that once burned like a bright bonfire has slowly, day by day, turned into smoldering embers. The weight of all that waiting is just immense. And for Sarai, this was more than just sadness. See, back in the ancient world, not having children was a deep, personal pain. It was a kind of public shame, like your family story was just ending. So for her, every single day was this quiet, painful reminder of the child she didn't have. Her home, her life, it all felt so empty. So, with a heart just heavy with a decade of disappointment, Sarai does what so many of us do when patience finally runs out. She comes up with her own plan. Now, it's so easy for us to look back and judge her, right? But let's try to put ourselves in our sandals for a minute. This wasn't some evil plot. This was a desperate, messy, totally human attempt to, help God's plan along, to take matters into her own hands because it felt like God wasn't doing anything. Okay, so here's her plan, and it's based on a custom from that time. She says to Abram, look, go to my Egyptian servant Hagar. Maybe if she has a child, that child can be considered mine. Now, this might sound really strange to us, but it was a known practice back then, a complicated but accepted way to have an heir. And the crucial part, Abram just agrees. He listens to Sarai's voice instead of asking God what he should do. And it backfires. Instantly, the moment Hagar finds out she's pregnant, whatever peace existed in that household just shatters. The human-made plan that was supposed to bring hope instead brings jealousy, anger, and pain. Their tent becomes a house divided against itself. So let's look at this from both sides because it gets messy. From Hagar's perspective, she's now carrying the future heir. She suddenly has a status she never had before, and she starts to look down on Sarai. But from Sarai's perspective, she feels completely betrayed. She turns to Abram and cries out, "This is all your fault. My own servant despises me." Their clever solution just created a brand new, heartbreaking problem. And Abram's response here is, well, it's pretty passive. He basically washes his hands of the whole situation. He tells Sarai, look, she's your servant, you do whatever you want to her. And that simple sentence gives Sarai the green light to let all of her anger and hurt out on Hagar. She treats Hagar so harshly that her life becomes completely unbearable. So Hagar does the only thing she can think to do. She runs. Just picture it. A lone woman, pregnant, heartbroken, running from the only home she knows. The desert wind is whipping around her as she flees into this huge, empty, unforgiving wilderness. She's running toward Egypt, her old home, but really, she's just running away from the pain. She feels worthless, forgotten, completely invisible. So Hagar fled from her mistress. Think about those words. There is just a world of hurt and desperation packed into that one short sentence. And then, right when it seems like all hope is lost, the whole scene shifts. Out there, in the middle of nowhere, Hagar finds a spring of water. I mean, that's literally a miracle. Life in a place of death. And it's right there, by the water, at her absolute lowest moment, that she has an encounter that will change her life forever. Okay, this moment is just electric. A messenger of God finds her. He knows her name. He knows her situation. He doesn't just see a runaway slave. He sees Hagar. For what feels like the very first time in this entire story, someone truly, deeply sees her for who she is. And then this messenger gives her a mind-blowing promise. He tells her to go back, but not as a victim. He tells her she's going to have a son and that her descendants will be too many to count. She, the outsider, the servant, gets her very own divine promise. And he gives her a name for her son, Ishmael. And why that name? Because it literally means God hears. Because the messenger says, the Lord has heard your suffering. This leads us to the climax of the whole chapter. It's so powerful. Hagar, this woman who felt totally invisible and unheard, does something that no one in the Bible has ever done before. After being seen by God, she turns around and gives God a name. She calls him El Roi, and that means the God who sees me. Think about that. This isn't some fancy theological title she read in a book. This is a name that came straight out of her own pain, her own tears, her own profound experience of being found when she was lost. It's the most personal name for God you can imagine. So if we zoom out, you can see the whole arc of the chapter. It starts with human impatience that leads to conflict. That conflict leads to pain and a desperate escape. But that escape into the wilderness is exactly what leads to the divine encounter. And the chapter closes when Abram is 86 years old with the birth of Ishmael. God hears, a living, breathing reminder of everything that just happened. So, what does this amazing ancient story have to do with us today? How do we apply it to our lives? Well, that's what this section is all about, improving our dimensions. Now, dimensions is just a cool word for our character traits, what some call midot. And believe me, this story has a huge lesson for us about how we see, or maybe how we fail to see, the people all around us.
Hagar's entire experience leaves us with this really important question to wrestle with. In our own lives, at school, at work, even in our own families, who are the people who might be feeling like Hagar? Overlooked, unheard, and totally invisible.
So here it is, our challenge for the week, our Midot Challenge. Let's try to be an El Roy person for someone else. It's 3 simple steps. First, look for the lonely. Make it your mission this week to spot one person who seems a little left out. Second, see them with your actions. It doesn't have to be a big deal. A genuine smile, a simple hello, or an invitation to join in can change someone's entire day. And third, make it a family discussion. Talk about a time when you felt totally seen by someone and how amazing that felt. This is a simple practice, but it can absolutely change the world around you.
Thank you for joining us for this complete journey through the Part S. That's a way of talking about the deep, rich layers of meaning we can find in these ancient stories. We hope these truths help you and your family improve your own dimensions this week. If you enjoyed this full chapter deep dive, please like, subscribe, and share which part of the journey touched your soul in the comments. We'll see you in the next chapter.